Welcome everybody. I am the air quotes comedian, a man who can give you an estimate on the price of what you're breathing right now, but do it in a humorous way. Don't shake your head like that. And this is the Polemics Podcast. Welcome. I am a big fan of counterintuitive facts. For instance, the Egyptian queen, Elizabeth Taylor, was closer in terms of time to when the pyramids were being built than when she was filming the movie adaptation of Who's Afraid of Richard Burton's Divorce Lawyers. Another example is that there are currently more slaves in the world than there has ever been in history, and, perhaps most famously, it's impossible for bumblebees to fly, or at least it was until aerodynamic engineers proved that they actually could physically fly, which is why bumblebees fly these days. Now, I know what you're thinking, dear viewer. You're thinking, that's absolutely ridiculous, Patrick, and patently untrue. You've never expressed an interest in counterintuitive facts before. In the pantheon of evil, right, I place slavery squarely at the top because it denies the humanity of the slave as well as the humanity of the slaver, and because, as a systemic institution, it makes us, unwittingly or otherwise, complicit. The battery in your mobile phone, that lithium was mined by child slaves. The chocolate bar you're mashing down your throat, yeah, the cocoa beans were mined by child slaves. The steel in your vehicle, picked from the steel trees by slaves in Brazil. You might as well be holding the keys to the leg irons and brandishing the whip yourself. You utter cunt. Of course, I made my own mobile phone out of hemp and earwax and used ethically sourced lemons for a power supply. I don't eat chocolate and my vehicle is made from an old tree stump I found, so my hands are clean, other than all the splinters, of course. Apologists for the supply chain of corporations might say things like, "Oh, just because they're paid next to nothing, that doesn't make them real slaves, does it?" No. When I say slaves, I'm not being hyperbolic or metaphorical or other long words I don't actually understand the meaning of. I mean what the word slave itself means. People owned by other people and forced into labor against their will. Let's get that fucking straight. There are more slaves in the world than there has ever been before. I may have mentioned that already. People often ask me, they would ask me if I actually had an audience. They would ask me, if I had an audience, they might ask me, air quotes comedian, why do you always do routines about the darkest, most depressing shit imaginable? Transphobia, racism, exploitation, war, climate change. Why can't you write about putting the toilet roll the right way round on the toilet roll holder like a proper comedian? I try, dear viewer, I try to write broad comedy routines. Banal, meaningless drivel like what proper comedians do, but then I think to myself, wow, if I did that, then I wouldn't be able to make the two regular viewers who listen to my shit aware of important but really depressing things like the fact that slavery is alive and well in the modern era. White Americans have this story in their heads about the end of slavery in their country. A story that carries the title How Slavery Was Ended by White Folk in the United States, and other entertaining fairy tales for children. White Americans like to say things like, compared to the rest of the world, the USA ended slavery comparatively early, which both engages the mechanism of whataboutism to deflect responsibility and is also a lie. But the people who say it aren't necessarily liars because they're just ignorant of the truth. Yeah, imagine an American person being ignorant. Abraham Lincoln ended slavery in the USA. Is another thing they like to say, which again is not true. What brought about the end of slavery was a continued and unwavering assault of the institution of slavery by the slaves themselves. Had the slaves been compliant with the wishes of the white population, then they would still be in chains in the fucking cotton fields, wouldn't they? White people like saying that Abraham Lincoln ended slavery purely so that they can feel good about themselves and pat themselves on the back. Oh yes, we white people made a boo-boo, but we put things right in the end thanks to all the white people who saw slavery as a moral outrage. Well, the white saviour complex has no fucking place in the history of US slavery. The resistance to the institution of slavery by the slaves resulted in a conundrum for the capitalist system that oversaw the whole enterprise. Basically, they saw that maintaining the system of slavery as is was going to cause problems to the flow of capital down the line, in much the same way as a good shit after a particularly sloppy Buriani will clog up the U-bend of the porcelain throne. People can point to the 13th Amendment all they want and stamp their tiny little feet and shout at the top of their lungs, "See, it says it right there, slavery is no more." To which I respond, yes, I can read too. The 13th Amendment didn't end slavery, it just modified the conditions. If you're scratching your head wondering what in the name of fuck I'm whittering on about, then let's dig into it. It's not that there has been a labour shortage recently. No, the reason capitalist concerns have been having trouble filling out their poorly paid positions with lacklustre worker benefits, if they provide any benefits at all, is that companies are only offering poorly paid positions with lacklustre worker benefits if they provide any benefits at all. It's not like anything has changed really, except for the fact that the working stiff literally can't afford to take such a job that pays less than the meagre benefits that the government doles out. What some companies are doing is leasing people from the prison population. The more quick-witted amongst you may have spotted a problem with that last sentence, the one where I said mere moments ago that corporations are leasing people from the prison population. If, like me, you're a bit slow, a bit dim, a bit of a thickie, you'll be forgiven for missing what I've said twice now. When it comes to leases, right, you can only lease property. It's a whole legal definition. Now the light bulb is fully lit, I suspect. That's right, folks. Slavery is alive and well in the USA, and it's not only legal, it's protected by the fucking Constitution. I'm sure a large majority of people would respond by saying, well, they're only prisoners, they deserve everything they get. Yep, those kind of people are the same type of people who would have said, well, they're black, they don't even qualify as human beings, they deserve everything they get. The point is that slavery isn't as far away as you think. No matter what country you're in, there is slavery going on there. Take Uzbekistan, for example, which produces a lot of the world's cotton. Funny how cotton and slavery go together like conservative politicians and hypocrisy. Anyway, farmers are forced by the Uzbek government to grow cotton, and then, come harvest time, the government forces teachers, firefighters, doctors, basically anybody who's capable of picking cotton out into the cotton fields to harvest it. Now, as ideas go, I'm fully on board with this, but I would implement it slightly differently. Don't give me that look, dear viewer. I might not send who you'd expect out into the cotton fields. Actually, I would send exactly who you'd expect. The situation I just described in Uzbekistan isn't even the worst part of it. No, there's more. The European Union, that bastion of human rights, that vaunted institution with its lofty goals of prosecuting war criminals and the like, that venerated... You get the idea. Anyway, what was their response to Uzbekistan's slavery problem? I'm glad you asked. They lowered the import taxes on Uzbek cotton. Just in case you were wondering, lowering the import tax on Uzbek cotton is highly fucking illegal, and the European Union are currently having legal action taken against them. A lot of corporations have a statement on their website that says something to the effect of, "We monitor our supply chains to ensure that slavery had no part of what we produce," which you'll undoubtedly recognise as a bald-faced lie in almost every case. I can tell whopping great lies too. For example, I'm really funny. There are currently 40 million slaves in the world, not including slaves to the grind, of course. If you'd like to do something about it, then perhaps you could make a small donation to Anti-Slavery International. The link is below. That's it for this episode of The Polemics. Be sure to hit the dislike button and then bugger off.